Hey guys, it's your host Dave Gold. Welcome back to the Dave Gold Evolve podcast. So this is the most spontaneous episode yet, as I received a few really intriguing and vulnerable messages from our guest today, Breanna Kate, who connected with my interview with Yuval Mann, and I thought it would be fascinating to bring her on and learn from her about what women really want from men today. So welcome, Breanna. Thank you so much for joining the podcast. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about you and where you're at in the world right now.
Thank you so much. This was incredibly spontaneous. Literally, I think I commented on Yuval's video and you said, hey, do you want to be the next person on my podcast? So I shared with you vulnerably, and I'm here to do that today as well. So I am 31 and I just at the start of this year became single after 13 years of being in a relationship. So, a lot of that was amazing, but then there was a big part of it looking back retrospectively now that that I wasn't growing and I wasn't evolving and it wasn't serving me. And I went through quite a bit of trauma. My husband was unfaithful, and I found that out 3.5 years ago. And then from finding that out, it made me realize that I needed to do some inner work because my self-worth was really low. I had a 6-week-old baby at the time. And so the last 3.5 years, I've been on this beautiful journey. It hasn't always been beautiful. It's still been really tough, facing parts of myself that, I didn't necessarily want to face. But it brought me to the stage at the start of this year where I realized that this relationship was no longer serving me. The deceit in different ways continued, and I realized that I wanted something different, wanted more. And then since I've separated, I have been on this beautiful, exciting journey of the dating world again, which is so different in your 30s to when you're 18. And it's been really fun. And I've discovered a lot about myself. I've discovered a lot about what I want. And yeah, it's continuing now. So that's my journey.
So if it's too personal, I understand. But when you found out what was going on in your relationship and that it was no longer healthy, how did you approach ending the relationship? And was it difficult for you?
Yeah, it was so difficult. It was, so my ex is 14 years older than me. So when I got together with him, I was obviously very impressionable, and I sort of let him lead everything. But in that, when you're 18, you don't really know what you want in life. And so I just sort of went along with whatever he wanted to do. So when I found out that he was cheating on me, it was super traumatic. It was, I feel like the first year of motherhood was ripped away from me because it just completely consumed my mind. But something changed that day. Like I never saw him in the same light. Like I used to always hold him on a pedestal. And it was this reality check of, you're not who I thought you were, and we're not who I thought we were. And so maybe looking back retrospectively, we probably should have just separated then and there. I wanted to give it a real good go, but he didn't. Looking back, he didn't try. Like I gave him 3.5 years to really make some changes. But the cheating, it wasn't, and I'm getting quite personal here, but the cheating was not, he didn't fall in love with someone else. It was all sex related. And so it was with many different people. I saw videos and photos, and so it was quite traumatic. And so he said he wanted to change. He said he had a problem. And so, I believed him. And I did a lot of work on myself over that time. And he said he did, but I don't think he really went in to do the deep healing and where this was all coming from. So last year I found out that the cheating had continued on in different forms. And last year I was going to leave, but I kept looking for answers going, do I leave? Do I stay? Either one was scary. It was like, he would tell me all guys cheat, all guys cheat. And so then I was like, well, maybe they do. Maybe all guys cheat. And then that made me scared not to leave, which was probably his intention. And then it was scary to stay because I wasn't happy and I didn't feel fulfilled. But looking back now, it wasn't just the cheating that wasn't right in our relationship. It's like the universe was sending a message. He had to keep cheating for me to leave him, because otherwise I wasn't going to leave him. And then I realized really what I wanted. And it wasn't a conscious relationship in the end. So it was really tough to make that decision. But once I made that decision, everything fell into place for me, and it continues to do so.
So I just want to let the viewers know that that was probably very manipulative of your ex-husband, because not all men cheat and not all women cheat.
No.
But that probably left maybe an impression of what he did is maybe what other men do. So when you became single again, and did you have kind of a fear that you were going to fall into a similar type of relationship? And
Totally.
Did you hold yourself back from dating at first and just take a break to be alone? Or did you just try to say, all right, let's just jump right back into this and let me try to meet someone who's healthy for me?
So a couple of questions there. Yeah, I agree. I now realize that not all guys cheat and not all women cheat, but it was very manipulative of him. And I think I think in many ways, he's actually a really good person. He's got a really beautiful heart, but I think that he has some deep-seated traumas. Or I think that the way that he went about the relationship is okay if there's transparency, right? But he never told me about any of this. And so that's where it's not okay. And what he believes, and in the end, I kept going, I don't understand. What is it about this? I feel like I'm a really servant wife. I feel like I do everything. Do I not please you? And he goes, yeah, you do please me. So what is it? And he said he believes that men are meant to be with many women. And I was like, whoa, what? And we've been together for 13 years. So obviously our values were very different. We were in a monogamous, what I thought was what we agreed to, a monogamous relationship. Anyway, because I'd been really working on myself for 3.5 years, when I made that decision to separate, I was really ready to meet other guys. I knew I didn't want a relationship straight away because I knew I wanted to rediscover what I want, who I like, what my type is, what the dating world was like. So I did a lot of work with an energy healer to rewire my subconscious, because I did have a lot of fear about going out and dating. I also had, when you've been cheated on, you feel the thing that came up with my subconscious, which was interesting in my sessions, was that I didn't feel beautiful, which I don't think that consciously, but my subconscious said that. So I had to do a lot of work on that. But pretty much when I separated, I was very ready to date, but not in a relationship sense. And I was very honest when I started dating. I said to anyone that I met, and it was just before COVID happened, actually, so it was an interesting time. But I was very honest and said, look, I don't want a relationship. I've just gotten out of, a 13-year relationship, but I do really want connection, and I do want fun and to explore where this goes. And I don't want exclusivity.
And what kind of response did you get from men when you said that?
Yeah, well, I didn't know what to expect because it's been so long since I've been dating. And it all were like, yeah, great. I feel like it's maybe a guy's dream when a girl says that. But the first couple of guys got really attached. The first one got very, very attached. And
almost like when you tell them that you don't want a relationship, then they look at you as the epitome of what they want in a relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this first guy, he was amazing. You know, we had an amazing time. We got along really well. We had a great connection. It was amazing sex as well. What I thought then was amazing. Now, since my experiences, which we can talk about later, it's probably not what I want now moving forward. But and I told him what I wanted, and then he just got very attached. He said, look, I want exclusivity. I want to see you 4+ times a week. And I was like, whoa, this is really too much. So then I just said, look, we just have to separate. This can't go ahead. But mostly the guys have been really good about it. And I think that to have that transparency allows you to really open up. There's nothing worse than feeling like you're hiding something if you're seeing multiple guys. I mean, I'm not, you know, I don't say, oh, I saw this guy and this is what happened. And, you know, I don't go into details, but I just say that I don't want to be exclusive. And are you okay with that? And they have been.
Interesting. Yeah. Now, you made a comment when we started talking this morning about how you had never dated a younger man before.
Yes.
And as I've experienced in the world, there are certain cultures where women are very reluctant to date a man who is younger. Why do you think that is?
I think for me, I was always mature for my age. And so because I was last dating when I was 18, if I was going to date younger, they would be under 18. And the girls seemed to, the guys would be very immature at that age.
Yeah, that's really young.
Yeah, that's really young. So that's probably why. But then going into the dating world now, just because I always went for older guys then, that's just what I did now. And so when I've gone into dating, since I've separated, I treated this as almost a research phase, like a phase of what do I like? What do I want? I want to experience different types of guys and see who it is that I really connect with. And so there was this one guy who was younger, he's 3 years younger, and I was like, oh, I'm totally not going to be into him. Not just because of that, he was also quite alternative from what he seemed to be. I'm alternative in my views, but not necessarily my looks as such, or how so then I went on a date with him. We really connected, and he made me realize that I was so wrong about younger guys. I mean, potentially other younger guys I wouldn't connect with, but he was so mature, but mature in the sense of that he was just really conscious. I've never had an experience with a guy like I have with him. And I tried to work it out. I just felt like drawn to him, and like this ecstasy coming away from being with him. And we've been together multiple times now.
Hey, brother, if you stumble upon this interview and you're listening, great job. You know, we both really appreciate your presence.
It was, I couldn't work it out. And then I realized, I was like, wow, it's just his presence. And presence when you're connecting and just talking, and not necessarily touching physically, that level of presence. But then absolute presence, like sexually. I've never felt the presence of a man like I feel with him. And it's that, and I can tell he's not thinking about anything else. He's completely with me. He sees me, he feels me, he knows me. I feel safe, like I feel secure. I feel he's strong just because of he sees me. I can surrender. I'm truly in my feminine, and I mean, that changed the game for me. That I was then like all the other guys that I have dated, it was totally superficial. Now I was like, this is the type of guy in the future that I want to be with.
So, Breanna, can we say definitively that age is not indicative of maturity, and that maybe both men and women can do a little bit better job of looking for presence in relationship rather than just maturity?
Absolutely. It's totally presence. It is presence. It is presence. It's not indicative of age at all.
It's something that I've really come across many times, especially living here in Israel, where there is a lot of pressure from the society, especially on women, to be in a monogamous relationship, and I think to progress that relationship to marriage at some point. And certain standards that they set in their mind, which is, how can I be with a guy who's younger than me? It just won't add up. When in reality, that guy who's meant to connect with you on that deep level, age is just a non-factor.
Totally.
Skin color is probably a non-factor.
Totally.
Their religion, their race, the way that they look sometimes, but we put so much judgment and emphasis on these characteristics and traits, and then we end up asking, why haven't we found the right person? And
Totally.
Maybe it's because we're looking in the wrong places, or we're putting too much pressure on ourselves when it comes to this filtering or qualifying of who we want to experience.
Totally. And I totally feel that. And in my dating experience so far, so before I met this guy, I'm not going to say his name, but before I met him, the other guys that go, oh, could I have a relationship with this guy? And I'm thinking about all of the things, and it's the list of things of, do they have a steady job? Are they passionate? Yeah. All of these things that actually don't matter whatsoever. But you know what? I didn't realize that they didn't matter until I met this other guy who, by the way, I'm not going to be in a relationship with. He's too much of a free bird, and we've had this amazing connection. And it made me realize what truly matters, because even though we're not in love, that's how I felt love, and I don't think that you need to be in love to feel love. And so that's really you bring that ecstasy to life, and I feel like you can achieve anything. And that's what that experience with him has allowed me to feel and to have and to embody in everyday life. I actually feel every day since I've met him, I feel grateful that I met him. And I'm like, where are all the other guys like this?
Well, they're definitely out there, but sometimes they're hiding behind either their own facade or society's facade. And sometimes the narrative and the dialogue that many teachers and coaches and books push on these men is to not be real and to not be authentic and to not be present, to portray yourself as something that you're not.
Yeah.
And then when the woman meets the guy, maybe they come together and they have a nice sexual experience, but I think, as you mentioned before, you're able to kind of see through it, and it's not entirely authentic. Can you touch on that for a moment? How can you as a woman see when a guy is not being 100% present and authentic in a relationship?
Potentially there's a lot of women that wouldn't, like, there's a lot of people that just focus when you're connecting with someone and you have a sexual experience, they focus just on the physical aspect. Oh, it was really good sex, He had a really good dick, and it was really hard for ages, and we had really long sex, and he made me come several times. But when you can be with a man that is fully present, you feel that integrity. Looking back at my past experiences, when a man hasn't been fully present with me, my heart doesn't open up. I can't truly connect. And actually, it's a lot harder to orgasm. That's the difference as well. Like, I think of intimacy as into me, you see. And so...
Wow, beautiful.
Yeah, and when a man is not showing up with integrity, I can feel that I'm not open. It's just a feeling.
Did you come up with that one? Intimacy?
No, I didn't actually. I'm doing a lot of work I'm really passionate now about rediscovering I feel like I've rediscovered my sexuality, but then empowering other women to find their sexuality and not have any shame around it. Like I think about back to when I was, dating before this long-term relationship, I had a lot of shame around having sex with a guy. And so I really wasn't with many guys because I would think that if I slept with a guy, I'd be a slut. And this came from our society and from other men as well. And so since I've become single, it was like I took back that power, and I was like, I want to discover this because I really feel that our sexuality is life force. And I see in a lot of my friends, they have a lot of shame around sex from what's told to them from their parents, from school, from friends, from other guys as well, about like slut-shaming. So I really want to empower a lot of women that know it's so beautiful to explore your body and to explore that with other partners. But I think the key to doing it is connecting with the right partners. And I think it begins if us women or the men can open that connection with integrity and honesty and say, hey, this is what I'm wanting from this, it will allow the other person to open up with honesty and have transparency as well.
Okay,
and
I'm gonna ask you a question now that I didn't
Sure.
expect to come up.
Okay.
But let's say a guy is a little bit ashamed of something that he does in the bedroom, whether it's he feels like he comes too fast or he's ashamed of his size, because guys come to me with these questions sometimes. Well, if he opened up to you about that, would that be a turnoff?
I think it would actually be I think it would probably free the guy, and so then it would allow him to connect more to the woman. What we really want is connection. We really want that and it will allow him to be more conscious. So I feel like it wouldn't be a turn off. I think when a woman feels like they're being let in, that you feel more connected. And then when we're more connected, we have a better opportunity of orgasming as well. So no, I don't think it would be a turn off at all.
Very interesting. Because instead of opening up to the partner about your fears or insecurities, what a lot of men do is look for a solution to their problem. They look for a technique or a spray or a pill or a way to alleviate that problem rather than just openly discuss it and embrace it, whether they're aware of it or not.
Absolutely.
And that may be the missing piece, which is kind of, we've got these industries that are marketing their certain services towards people that have a problem, okay, and they're taking them further and further away from actually being liberated.
Absolutely. I also think, totally being able to just be openly share. But I also think if we can start to practice being present in everyday moments of life, then it's going to be present with ourselves. So this is men and women. Then it's going to be easier to practice presence with an intimate partner. And I think when we are present, then we're less likely to connect to our ego, because men and women have these thoughts. Like you say, it could be for performance for men, it could be for women, that they feel fat. It's like, oh, is he looking at my bum? Is he looking at my tummy? And the moment that you are thinking about that and you're in your head is the moment that we're not present. And it limits your connection. So I actually think it's more about being fully present.
Mm-hmm. What about when you go on a date with a guy and or maybe you meet him for the first time, do you think that it's a good thing for him to bring up the relationship and also sex early on in the conversation? And if so, is there a healthy way to bring it up so that it's not too much with someone that you don't necessarily know too well?
Yeah, I think it depends on what you're wanting from the date. So it depends if you're wanting, if you're really looking for like a long-term relationship, because I know I've got friends that want a long-term relationship and they think it might be a bit too much to talk about sex on the first date. However, I think that sex is a big part of our life, and also it's really important to be really clear on what each other wants, to know that we're aligned before we do get into anything and someone does get the wrong idea. So no, I think it's really good to talk about sex on the first date, but you don't want to give away everything. Like I think you want to have some mystery. You want to have some mystery. You just want to have some clear boundaries. That's what I would say.
And my final question to you before we just get into the end of the segment was, and you've talked about it a little bit, but ecstatic sex.
Yeah.
Okay. It's almost a term that I haven't heard too much, but can you kind of describe what it would be like for a woman or a man or the couple together to experience ecstatic sex, and maybe give some hints or some pointers of how they could get there?
Yeah. So again, I really have only experienced ecstatic sex since I met this guy.
Yeah.
I thought that I'd had amazing sex before and I would go, oh my gosh, this was so good. He was amazing, but I didn't know what I didn't know, right? So ecstatic sex to me is being completely open, completely vulnerable, again, completely present, completely in tune with the other person, like just completely connected, knowing what they, even if you don't fully know the person and you're having a sexual experience with them, you know what they like and what they don't like because you're completely present. You can listen to, you can hear their breath, you can see their body jolt, you can feel them. So ecstatic sex is letting go of all inhibitions and being completely in the moment, giving and receiving equally, and just it leaves you on an absolute high. It's really beautiful. But in terms of getting there, I really do think it's just being about completely present, completely conscious. And to get to that point, you've got to have transparency. So, you know, just knowing that the other person is completely honest, is showing up with integrity. And that's why the conversation at the very beginning of a connection is, I believe, is really important. So that all feeds into that ecstatic sex.
That's a really beautiful answer. Now, maybe you want to tell the listeners a little bit about the kind of work that you're doing and how they can connect with you.
Okay. So I am still exploring this space quite a lot, but I will be a qualified health coach in the next couple of months. Health has been my absolute passion, and I think, you know, even to have amazing sex, your physiology has got to be right. So, but where I see my work going after this is supporting women getting into the divine feminine and masculine and helping women really connect to their sexuality. So yeah, you can follow me on Instagram or on Facebook at this stage. And yeah, I'd love to have a chat if you want to connect.
What's your Instagram or Facebook handle?
It is, Instagram is Breanna Kate S, Breanna Kate S.
Beautiful, Breanna. All right. Well, my final question that I'll be asking my guests on the podcast from now on is, how would you like your business or your dating life to evolve over the next year to bring peace and abundance in both areas of your life?
My business and dating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
You can take them one at a time if you'd like.
yeah, that's a big question. So I'll start with dating. Eventually, so right now I'm not in a relationship. I've actually slowed down from the dating scene so I can focus on my studies and my business. I just found I was heavily dating, and it was taking away from advancing in my work. So I would love to ultimately be in a relationship, in a monogamous relationship. I am open to when that is. I don't have any time frame, but what I would love is to connect with a guy who lives and leads their life consciously, has similar values, someone who I can be completely present with. And I just know that in that, that love allows women to completely flourish, and you can see a woman that is in love and has been given love, and one that doesn't. And so it's amazing, that radiance that it gives a woman. So that's what I would ultimately love in terms of a relationship. Over the next year, in terms of my business, I'd love to be then practicing supporting women in that space of sexuality and connecting to the divine feminine, potentially running workshops and retreats in Bali or Thailand would be amazing. And just, really supporting more women to find themselves and find this life force of sexuality. So that is what I desire over the next 12 months.
Incredible. Beautiful, Breanna. So thank you so much for coming on. And to the listeners, if you're looking to evolve your business and dating life, just head on over to davegoaldevolve.com, check out my site. And if you're ready for a massive change in your life, feel free to book an Evolve session. I'm offering the first session absolutely for free for a limited time. So this has been a really interesting interview where we got to learn about ecstatic sex, a little bit about your journey from being in a marriage, in a monogamous relationship, and now getting back into the dating world and having all these beautiful new experiences, and also learning about how important presence is, especially in the bedroom. So thanks again for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, feel free to like, share, and comment what you learned. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.